Good afternoon, everybody. David Tashrudian here with ADU1, and today we're going to be talking about SB9 and SB10. So for all of you out there in cyber world, I want to thank you in advance for attending our seminar, and let's get right into it. So bear with me for a second as I share my screen and we'll get into the presentation. Okay, so it looks like we'll share this. There we are. Start from the beginning. Okay, some of you may know me. My name is David Tashrudian. I am the principal here at ADU1. Today we'll be talking about Senate Bill 9 and Senate Bill 10 and how they're and how both of these Senate bills provide income opportunities for landlords and potential income opportunities for people looking to purchase properties where they can take advantage of the provisions of SB9 and SB10. We'll start with SB9. So the current status of SB9, it was just passed into law. I gave a talk about this same subject, I want to say a week or two ago, and at that time, the bill was in enrolled status, which means it was up for final review by the leaders in the legislature before it got to the governor's desk for signing. And this, and that was right before the recall election. And as we know, Governor Newsom was able to overcome the recall initiative. And one of the first things that he did, which I thought was pretty interesting, was after he prevailed in the recall election, was to sign SB9 into law. So it's official. SB9 is signed into law. It amended Government Code sections 664. You can see that right here. 66452.6 and added 65852.21 and 66411.7 to the code relating to land use. So it's great, and sort of overarching synopsis of the law is essentially now under SB9 for every R1, so residential lot, you have by right the ability to split that lot into two separate lots. And what's really interesting is that with respect to each of those lots, you have now by right the ability to put a duplex on each of the lots. And it's still sort of up in the air whether or not you still retain your right to also build an ADU and a junior ADU on each of those lots. So I mean, the configuration of housing on these split lots is not quite limitless, but there are so many different ways that you can take this one residential lot, split it into two, and put a different configurations of housing on each of those lots, and we'll talk about that a little bit more. Some key highlights of the rule of SB9 rather is essentially that, and these are two of them, it requires a city or a county to ministerially approve either or both of the following. One is a housing development of no more than 2 units, meaning a duplex in a single family zone, and the subdivision of a parcel zone for residential use into 2 approximately equal parcels as split. So let's talk about what ministerial approval means. Typically, when you wanted to do a lot split, or if you wanted to do a development on a piece of real property, you might have to go to the city, and there may be, well, you will have to go to the city rather, and the city might have some complicated procedures whereby you have to submit documentation in order to have the city do a review of the project, and they could, or they had the discretion whether or not to approve the project or disapprove it based on the city's general plan and a whole host of other esoteric rules that the city might have that the normal person, the normal developer, and even an experienced engineer and architect might not realize was in place. There's also the potential when you're doing a subdivision project, for example, that the city might require a public hearing. And at the public hearing, you could have your neighbors, other stakeholders come to the hearing and object to the project for whatever reason. All of those hurdles with respect to single family homes and these two provisions here the duplexes, or the right to create the duplexes and the right to subdivide your lot, have been removed. So no longer is there discretion on behalf of some bureaucrat at the city whether or not you can split your lot or put 2 units on your lot. They have to allow it. And that's what we mean by ministerial approval. Essentially, so long as your application complies with the requirements of the law and it complies with the ordinance as the ordinance was passed by the municipality, which will again be in compliance with the law. So long as your application is there, is there and in compliance, it will have to be approved. I mean, that's just something that you don't see nowadays. It's sort of, SB9 was a way of cutting through all of the red tape and allowing for the developer, the single family home owner, who's not necessarily a developer but is just interested in creating more income or has a lot of land and wants to subdivide it. Easy way to get through the hoops and comply and split their lot. So let's talk about the lot split provision. So the lot split provision was added to section 66411.7 of the government code. And essentially what it says is here is notwithstanding any other provision of this division or any other local law, the agency must ministerially approve the parcel map urban lot splits, right? And so there are a couple of requirements that go along with it. And you can see those in subsections A1 and subsections A2. So one of the more important rules here is that if you have one parcel and you want to split it into 2 parcels, you've got to make sure that those parcels are approximately equal. And if you can't make them approximately equal because of a structure that's existing, it's going to have to be a 60-40 split. And we'll get into an example, a really easy example, after I take a sip of this this fine Italian sparkling water. A real easy example is to think of a 10,000 square foot lot. Let's say you've got this 10,000 square foot lot and you want to do a lot split, but you've got your existing home, let's call it a 1,200 square foot house on the front portion of the lot, and then there might be a detached garage on the back portion of the lot. That back portion of the lot might encroach into 50% of the lot as it's measured from the back wall to the center of the lot. So you won't really be able to split those lots into 2 equal 50%, 5,000 square foot lots because of that detached garage. But what you can do now is split that lot into a 4,000 square foot lot and a 6,000 square foot lot, allowing for the detached garage to remain on the front 60%, the front 6,000 square feet. And you sort of reserve the rear 40% of the lot for the new development, or to sell it off and have somebody else build a home back there. The question then becomes sort of how do you get access? And if we don't talk about that later, I'll make sure to come back and talk about access. But essentially, if there's no access to the rear lot because you're splitting it hamburger style, if that makes any sense to any of you out there, when you're in elementary school, you're asked to fold a paper maybe hamburger style or hot dog style. If you're splitting your lot hamburger style so that you don't have access to the back, you can create an easement across the front property to access the back, essentially making the back property a flag lot, and the pole of the flag will be your access, and that'll be an easement that's granted from the front parcel to the rear parcel. And that easement, I should note, would also be an easement for the utilities, right? Because you're going to have to run at least water and waste underground from the rear parcel to the streets. So that utility will have to go through the front parcel and likely under the driveway. So that's one of the rules here, that the subdivision has to be, approximately equal or 60-40. And another one of the rules here is that the newly created parcels can be no smaller than 1,200 square feet, which I think is fairly small for a for any sort of residential use. But hey, the city's allowing, the state's allowing it, and the cities are going to have to allow it as well. So essentially, you can take a 2,400 square foot lot and split that into two 1,200 square foot lots and have a duplex on each 1,200 square foot lot. Now, practically, is that going to be enough size? Is that going to be a large enough parcel, rather, to fit a comfortable living unit? I'm not sure. Well, time will tell. We'll see how that goes, and I'll have to check back at the law. I don't think that the law has gone into effect. I think although SB9 has been passed, the law does not go into effect until January 1, 2022. So the beginning of next year, and then even then, once the law does go into effect, there's no guarantee that the local municipality will have its own ordinance in place by the time the law goes into effect for people to take advantage of the lot split rules. But we'll see how things shake out. I have a very strong feeling that within the next year or two, there's going to be a lot of development in this area, and that development will provide precedents for the city to then sort of shape its rules and its regulations around. So in addition to the size requirements, the parcel that's being split must be located within a single-family residential zone. So it's got to be an R1 lot. Also, the parcel subject to the proposed urban lot split must be located within an urbanized area or an urban cluster as designated by the Census Bureau, and we'll talk about that. And it's also got to satisfy the requirements in these subparagraphs B to K inclusive down at the bottom of the law, and we'll talk about a couple of those requirements as we go through this. Okay, so this slide is essentially a recap of what we just talked about. One thing that's really interesting is that the parcel that's being split cannot contain a rent-restricted housing unit or a housing where the owner has exercised its rights under the Ellis Act. So that's very important. So just make sure if you're looking at properties to buy that the property doesn't contain a rent-restricted unit already. If it does, it's not going to be subject to the lot split ordinance. Also, neither the owner of the parcel or any person acting in concert with that owner or partner has previously subdivided an adjacent parcel using an urban lot split. So this really comes into play. Say, for example, there's a corporate developer. I know everyone's been, well, at least I've been hearing about these large corporations and hedge funds purchasing up single-family homes in neighborhoods across the state and the country. So this part of the rule is meant to stop corporate interests from purchasing up portions of entire blocks and then turning them into multifamily housing. So what you can imagine here is, let's say, for example, Zillow, because I know they've been in a lot. Zillow buys up single-family homes in neighborhoods all across the country and in California, I believe. I know in other states, I'm not 100% sure in California, but I'm assuming they do. Let's say, for example, Zillow decides to come to your neighborhood in Granada Hills and purchases up two lots right next to each other, does an urban lot split, and all of a sudden, on those two adjacent lots, they were allowed to put 8 units. That would be highly disruptive to the single-family neighborhood, and this portion of the law is meant to stop corporate interests and property speculators from doing that. In addition to the the lot split requirements that we just saw, there is also an owner occupancy requirement, which could stop developers, speculators, and other corporate interests from taking advantage of the law. So this is not a requirement of SB9, but it is a sort of suggestion. Let's see here. Well, it looks like it is a requirement in the law, rather. It says here, a local agency shall require an applicant for an urban lot split to sign an affidavit stating that the applicant intends to occupy one of the housing units as their principal residence for a minimum of 3 years from the urban lot split. So the idea is that if you're going to split your lot, you got to live in one of the units. So please keep that in mind. I wonder if this portion of the law is going to remain. It's couched in mandatory terms here. When you see the word "shall" there, it looks like it's a mandatory term. If it was couched in another term like "may," for example, it'd be more permissive. But it looks like since SB9 says that the local agency shall require the affidavit of the owner occupancy, that you will have to live in at least one of the units for 3 years. What would be nice is if you had a young child or a parent, for example, and you can put them in one of the units, have them there for 3 years, then afterwards take full advantage of the rule. If you recall, I talked a little bit about an urban lot split having to be, or rather, a lot subject to being split according to the urban lot split rules, having to be within an urbanized area and cluster. So what you can do is you can go onto the U.S. Census's website, and the U.S. Census has published, at least as recently as 2010, a map showing the urbanized areas of Los Angeles. And essentially, everything within the borders of this green demarcation here is an urban lot split. I'm sorry, an urbanized area and an urbanized cluster. So just follow these green lines, and basically anything inside is subject to the lot split ordinance. You can see here all of Santa Clarita Valley and Simi Valley, the cities of Burbank, Glendale, Beverly Hills here, City of Los Angeles, Santa Monica. Oops, let's go back here. All of the Valley, the Harbor Gateway Corridor here, all the beach cities, Long Beach, a lot of North Orange County here. It looks like a lot of South Orange County is not. I mean, you've got the darker green line here, then you got a lighter green line. So if you're looking at purchasing property, go to the U.S. Census Bureau's website, find out where that property is located with respect to this map, and that'll give you a better idea if it's in an urbanized area, in an urbanized cluster. So here are some of the prohibitions that you want to take into account when you're looking at property to buy. The development or the parcel to be subdivided must be located within an urbanized area and cluster like we discussed, but it cannot be located in any of the following: prime farmland or farmland of statewide importance. I mean, I think this is really more important if you're looking at property out in Moore Park off of the 118, the 126, or something like that. Wetlands. I'm not sure. Do we have wetlands here in Southern California? If we do, you can't purchase property in the wetlands and expect to subdivide it. Here's one: land within the very high fire hazard severity zone. So you might want to take a look at and see where very high fire hazard severity zones are and how they're defined, to see if your property or the potential property that you're looking to purchase falls within that zone. A hazardous waste site, obviously. Here's the big one: an earthquake fault zone. The city of Los Angeles publishes, or it might be the U.S. Geological Service, and we'll get to it in another slide here, publishes a map where you can enter an address for a property and determine whether or not that property falls within an earthquake fault zone. Then you can see here F, G, H, and I. If you're looking to purchase property in a habitat for protected species, I'm sorry, you won't be able to split your lot. A site located within a historic or landmark district, or a site that has a historic property or landmark under state or local law as specified. We have a lot of historical preservation overlay zones in the city of Los Angeles. So be very aware if you're looking to purchase a property with an eye towards splitting it in those areas. Also, if you're in a 100-year floodplain or floodway, you will not be able to split your lot. So here's the link to the state of California's earthquake fault zone map. So it's not published by the U.S. Geological Service. It's published by the state of California. And you can see here with respect to this property at 18731 Strathern Street, all I had to do is pop in the address. And after the address was popped in, the website let me know if it was in a fault zone. And this parcel in particular is not within a fault zone. It would be the perfect candidate for a lot split. And it was on the market last time I looked, which was 2 weeks ago. I wonder if it still is. Parking, what everyone wants to know, and the rules are very similar to the rules for ADUs. If you do not have to provide parking under the ADU rules, you will not have to provide parking for the proposed duplex on the lot split. Essentially, if you're in a high quality transit corridor within a half-mile walking distance, essentially of a bus stop, you will not have to comply with the parking requirements. So that's SB9. Let's talk a little bit about SB10. SB10 is slightly different than SB9 in the sense that it hasn't been talked about that much, and there isn't as much clarity about the provision. But SB10, just like SB9, was signed by Governor Newsom on September 16th, 2021. What SB10 does, it allows you to take a parcel in a transit-rich area or an urban infill site and build up to 10 units of residential density per parcel at a height that's specified by the local jurisdiction. So what's really interesting is that the government code sections 69513.5 et sec that were added to the government code by SB10 are sort of general. They're vague, and those sections contain information about the rule and about adding 10 units, but there's not much specificity. I think the specificity will really come when the local jurisdictions apply SB10 to their own municipal code and publish municipal ordinances that incorporate and interpret SB10. So until that happens, there's not much clarity here. But one thing is for certain, if you're in a transit-rich area and you're in an urban infill site, there's a possibility that you'll be able to build 10 units, believe it or not, 10 units on your parcel at a height that's specified by the local government. And it'll be likely that that height is going to be the same height that applies to the existing zoning of the property. For purposes of the section, we really want to know what a transit-rich area means and what an urban infill site means. So if you look here at subsection C2, it would be E, let's see here, E2 defines transit-rich area, which means a parcel within 1/2 mile of a major transit stop as defined in the Public Resource Code, or a parcel on a high-quality bus corridor. Essentially, if you're within 1/2 mile walking distance of a bus station where the buses come every 30 minutes or so, or every 15 minutes or so, you're going to comply. And pretty much every neighborhood in the city of Los Angeles is going to comply with this. So you got to be in a transit-rich area. Let's see here. And so we've got to comply with both of these requirements: transit-rich area and an urban infill site. So an urban infill site satisfies all of the following subsections A through C. So you've got to be in a parcel that's located in the city where the city boundaries include some portion of either an urbanized area or an urban cluster. And the site also has to be at least 75% of the perimeter of the site has to adjoin a parcel that's developed with urban uses. So the parcel has to touch 75% of it has to touch another area that's got an urban use. And what you also want to take into account that is that if there's a city if there's a city street that separates the urban use part from this parcel, that city street also counts as part of the parcel when you're determining it, whether it's adjoined or not. The site also has to be zoned for residential use or residential mixed use development. So long as all three of those components, A, B, and C, are fulfilled, you've got an urban infill site that you will be able to take and develop 10 units on. Here's another interesting fact. SB10 does not prohibit you from building ADUs. So if you've got room to build the 10 units and you have room to build your 2 detached ADUs, you can build up to 12 units. I mean, it's absolutely bonkers that you'll be able to take a residential lot and turn it into upzone it essentially into a 12-unit lot and build those 12 units and enjoy those rents. So that's the end of our slideshow. And we've been on, it looks like for almost 30 minutes now. So I will go back here to here's Brandon. Here are some comments. I'll go back here to our restream, our stream. I'll stop sharing and we'll answer some questions. I'm seeing here, B Young. Hey, Brandon, how's it going? Thanks for joining. Is the 60/40 limit on the lot split, is 40 the limit on the lot split ratio? It is the limit. So you can't go 35, 65, for example. It's got to be 60/40 is your maximum. So anything up to that is good. And I like to use round numbers. So a 10,000 square foot lot, you could use 40,000 for one, or 4,000 rather for one. Let's back that up a little bit. On a 10,000 square foot lot, you can use 4,000 for one lot and 6,000 for the other when it's split. Another question from Brandon: when will LA City give guidance on SB10? I wish I had a crystal ball here. I wish I knew when the city would be letting us know exactly what they're going to do. What my partners and I have is a 10,000 square foot lot here in the city of Van Nuys that we're looking to do a lot split on. And the reason we're looking to do a lot split on more than anything is to be at the forefront, so that we get the experience and we do all the go through the trials and the tribulations with the city, and navigate through all the pitfalls so that we can provide expert analysis based on firsthand information on our own property. So we're in the process of doing that right now. We're getting we have an engineer partner on staff here. So what we're doing is we're getting that all prepared for the lot split. Once the first of the year hits, we're going to submit it, even if the ordinance hasn't been adopted by the city, and really work with them to get something that's something published that works for everybody. So my hope is that we'll be able to really help the city formulate a workable solution to implementing SB9. Excellent. What a gem from the city for once. Yeah, I know, this is great. Like the city and the local jurisdictions and the state have always been, I feel like pro-tenant, anti-landlord. So this is really something that's going to benefit landlords, benefit property developers. And it's going to be great to see how it shakes out in the next year or two. And we'll be at the forefront. So if you've got any other questions, here's my partner, Daniel. He just popped in here. Hey, Danny. We're talking here about SB9 and SB10. We're just
a big thing. Also, we have balconies too. A lot of balconies that are going to be mandatory for inspection. There's 3 million balconies in California that need to be inspected. It's a mandate. We should talk about that.
Yeah, Danny's talking about SB 721 and SB 326 with respect to the common interest communities. What we will do is probably do a separate webinar on just that. And maybe you could be our guest speaker.
Sure.
Okay, so with that, I guess I'll just log off today, and we'll talk to everybody soon. Oh, here, I have Christopher Bond here. Before I get off here, Christopher, I see here. Hi, can you split the lot and sell them separately? Yeah, that's the beauty. That's the beauty. You split it, and it becomes its own parcel. It becomes its own parcel, and you can sell it separately. So if you have any other specific questions, feel free to reach out to us. You can see our telephone number is somewhere here. I'll put the chat overlay. Here we are. ADU1. Our phone number is 866-NEW-ADU1. You can reach us here from the website, apartmentadu.com. You can also reach out to Helen directly at helen@adu-1.com. And there's always going to be someone to answer the phones and always someone to respond to your email inquiries. And we'll leave it at that. So thank you all for your time, and we'll talk soon.